Most of our stuff is just one-offs. And so when we're running our molders just like this, we're running it at 30, 40 feet a minute, okay? Contrast that to if you've ever seen a piece of wood where it has a bunch of mill marks in it, they're running about 100 or 200 feet a minute, right? So they're running it so fast, it's all about production. We're trying to slow it down and make it so it's beautiful. Hey guys, Brent Hull, Build Show, out here at our mill shop out here in Whiskey Flats. Got Ray, my molding operator, working on our two molders, and we are talking today about how to make custom moldings. Almost all of what we do is custom. We don't buy things off the shelf generally, okay? Now, why would we do that? Well, a lot of these historic projects we're working on require that you match what was there historically. So, for instance, this set of plans, we're doing some windows over at an old Knights of Pythias building in Dallas, and they're turning it into a hotel. So where we have these drawings of this transom, this window above and this sill, we have to make these moldings, right? We have to make the stops. We have to make the interior trim pieces so that they match the historic, right? We've got two molders. We've got a 5-head and a 4-head molder. They're different sizes and they do different things. We're not a big high production molding company. Most of our stuff is just one-offs. And so when we're running our molders just like this, we're running it at 30, 40 feet a minute, okay? Contrast that to if you've ever seen a piece of wood where it has a bunch of mill marks in it, they're running at about 100 or 200 feet a minute, right? So they're running it so fast, it's all about production. We're trying to slow it down and make it so it's beautiful. Now, this is kind of a fun room back here because it's where all our designs and shapes come from, and you see how varied they are. Basically what we're doing is we are taking old pieces of wood, right? This is a brick mold from a job. There's some very tight growth rings in that. And then we will cut a knife. So that's what all these are. These are knives for different projects. And then these are the samples for the different crowns and the moldings we've done. So basically what happens is, we'll walk back to this machine and I'll show you, this is a 4-head molder, right? So that molder in the back, basically for the piece of wood that goes through there, you're cutting it on the bottom, the side, and the top, okay? We have a 5-head molder because that one's a cleanup one. Sometimes moldings get so deep you need a second knife so you don't have to run it twice. So this is a 4-head molder, and you run a rough piece of wood through there like that, and it comes out a finished piece of wood on this other side, right? So each one of these different side moldings, right, has a different knife. So all those different knives in there are cutting these different profiles. Just big picture, we don't think it's a huge expense to do that because it's worth it to get these proper shapes and details. I think it's so important. I think most moldings that come from lumber yards are ugly, okay? I think they're in bad taste. They don't make sense. And we'll have a video about good versus bad moldings. But we think that kind of the lost art of building, we need to go back to those old shapes and those old details to get it right. And so that's what we're doing here. That's how we're gonna make in these custom moldings, these two molders. Sometimes we'll do it on a shaper. Sometimes if we have to have something curved, we'll do that on a shaper or a curved molder head. So we got each of those different molder heads, and I'm gonna show you in our knife cutting room kind of how we're making those moldings and then putting them into a molder head and making the shapes and making the beautiful moldings that we are. In here with Ray, these are our molder heads. So when we talk about a 4-head and a 5-head molder, right, these are the heads that we're talking about. Yes, and you're balancing and putting knives in here so that they can, they don't wobble the machine and everything else, right? You're balancing
the knives have to be balanced, yes, sir.
Yeah. And then you're putting it on here, right? And it is basically a big key machine, and you're cutting the profile right onto the head, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I always used to get frustrated by was guys would say, oh, it's too expensive or it's too much. But you can actually kind of turn around and do a setup for a custom run in not a ton of time. It doesn't take a half day, right?
Right, it doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, just depending on the size of the profiles, just everything,
So the shortest time would be how long?
Oh, just a simple setup, like I said, would be 15 minutes or less.
Yeah.
But to make knives, then you have to, like I said, cut the knives.
So if you already have the knife, then a setup is, 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
If you have to grind the knives, that's when it can get into half a day kind of thing?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so this is like a key maker, and it works really well. I mean, I make knives all day long, you know.
Yeah, no, it's great, and you're a master at it. So, you know, that may be one reason why it doesn't take you as long, because you're good at it, right?
I've only been doing it for like 40 years, yeah.
Exactly. So when we're making, you know, beautiful moldings like this windowsill for this hotel, we consider it part of building beautiful, right? To get a windowsill today and to get this one where it's 1.125 inches thick, we're taking raw lumber like that, right? And then running it through a molder so we can get a more beautiful profile, right? That to me is kind of the difference between and kind of the beauty of going after the old way of building, right? This molders go back to the 1880s, 1890s, and actually, or even earlier than that. And it was the power molder that allowed so much millwork production, which we are copying today. So great stuff. It's not an overwhelming thing if you have to get custom moldings for your job. Don't let someone tell you, oh no, that's going to cost too much, because it just doesn't. The value of getting that material custom made like that, I think, is the difference between good and great. I'm Brent Hull. Follow me on Instagram, Hull Millwork, Hull Homes. Thanks for watching.